In this world, there's one man who refuses to follow the script.
We have rules here, you know that. And if you don't follow the rules, then what are we?
One man stands tall in the face of adversity.
But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
A man who rises above the ashes of hot takes.
What do you care what they say?
Easy for you to say they all love you.
It's just noise, man. You're really good at it. You might be great.
That man is Nick Kostos, and this is You Better You Bet.
If loving sports is wrong, I don't want to be right.
Where narratives are challenged and the truth is spoken.
I told you what was going to happen last week. If you didn't listen, that's on you.
This isn't talk, it's perspective.
It's not what you look at that matters. It's what you see.
This is You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
What's up, everybody? Happy and merry, terrific Sports Tuesday to you and yours. This is You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports, as we bring you the fastest show in all of sports. The show presented today and always by BetMGM. Make it legendary by downloading the BetMGM app and visiting BetMGM.com. And on this Tuesday morning, the world of sports, absolutely en fuego. And we are going to get to all the big stories, including why, if history is any guide, the Montreal Canadiens, Les Habitants. Shout out to all the listeners who messaged me saying that my French is pretty good. My pronunciation of Les Habitants. The Montreal Canadiens, another Game 7 road win last night, taking down the Sabres in Buffalo. And if history serves as a guide, the Canadiens will beat the Carolina Hurricanes in the Eastern Conference Final and go to play for Lord Stanley's Cup. I will explain why a little later in the show. We will also get into the worst team in the NFL this season. I have gazed into the crystal ball, and I know which team it will be. And no, it's not the Miami Dolphins. And there is a piece of news attached to this story, attached to what I'm going to tell you, that's going to make you fall out of your chair. That is how ridiculous it is. And we will preview in full Game 1 tonight, Eastern Conference Final, Madison Square Garden. My New York Knicks against your Cleveland Cavaliers. Everybody hates the Knicks, it feels like. I love them. I'd love for them to win. We'll break down tonight's game with the Knicks and the Cavs. All the bets for tonight will close the show. Looking forward to that. The phone number, 310-840-4910. We are on YouTube at youtube.com/@thekostos, TheKostos. But we officially begin the terrific Sports Tuesday edition of You Better You Bet with the Wembanyama takeover. I'm being serious. I sit down this morning bright and early with my big-ass iced coffee, and I'm thinking about the show. And the song I have in my head is Takeover by Jay-Z. And I actually spent a minute thinking, like, how can I do a bit talking about, the first couple lyrics of the song Takeover, and I realized I didn't want to get fired, so I'm not going to do that. But I'll just say, that's what I thought of, because last night, from Victor Wembanyama, the Takeover. Capital T, the capital T, Takeover. And what an unbelievable basketball game this was last night. And just in sports and in life, right? Isn't it the best, to quote the late, great John Sterling? Isn't it amazing, Susan? Isn't it amazing when you have such anticipation for an event and you can't wait for something and it lives up to the hype and then some? It's like you're in your 20s and it's one of your friends' birthdays, and you're going out to the bar on Friday night, and you spend all week hyping it up, and you know these girls are going to be there that you really like, and you know that the venue is great, and you're going to get a bottle, and the music's going to be awesome, and there's a DJ there, and you can't wait for it. And then the night happens, and it's a movie. And you wake up the next morning, and all you can do with your friends is relive and talk about what happened the night before. It's the best in life and in sports when something you can't wait for, when something you highly anticipate lives up to the hype and then some. And that's what we got last night. Game 1 of the Western Conference Final. San Antonio 122. Oklahoma City 115 in double overtime. I try not to be, although I admit I guess I can be. Listen, I'm an excitable person. It is what it is. I'm very honest about that, right? I try not to be too dramatic. I try not to be prisoner of the moment. I truthfully, and I'll always tell you if I'm being that. I think I'm really honest on the show. I don't think it's hyperbolic or dramatic or prisoner of the moment to say it's one of the best conference final games ever. Right? Would anyone disagree with that statement? You could even take it a step further. This is one of the best NBA playoff, and let's take like the finals out of the equation just because the finals are a different beast. You're playing for the championship. It's one of the best NBA playoff games of my lifetime. And the stakes were insanely high throughout this game where you get the feeling like the winner of this game could potentially swing who wins the NBA championship. And I know a lot of people are saying this morning that this is really the NBA Finals, that this is kind of like Rams Seahawks in the NFC Championship game, where winner of this game wins the championship. Or, Michigan, Arizona, final night, Final Four Saturday night, winner of that game's going to win the championship. I know a lot of people feel that way. I don't want to bury the Knicks or the Cavs just yet, but we can get to my thoughts on as a Knicks fan watching last night's game in a little bit. But I mean, this was two 60-plus win teams, the two teams that most people consider to be the best in the league, the two teams that can stake legit claims to being dynasties potentially over the next however many years in the NBA. And this was round 1 of many, this year and in the years to come with Oklahoma City and San Antonio. And the game was scintillating, breathtaking. It was one of those shared experiences that we all have where one of those nights on social media that felt like this was 10 years ago on social media, where before social media turned into this cesspool, this black hole of negativity and bots and this and that, where sports fans just logged on to Twitter and just talked about the game. And everyone tweets, wow, can you believe it at the same time? This was unbelievable. This was the good stuff. This was as good, as great as it gets. And nothing that we saw in last night's game, and we saw a lot, no story emanating from last night's game, and there were enough to fill a novel. None bigger, literally and figuratively, than what we saw from Victor Wembanyama. 41 points, 24 rebounds, and somehow, and you will probably disagree with what I'm about to say, and I don't have to be right about this, and I acknowledge that. I kind of think that the most impressive number from Victor Wembanyama from last night's game is not 41, which is the points. It's not 24, the rebounds. It's not even the age 22, which is preposterous. It's 49. The minutes that he played in last night's game. Because remember, the criticism of Victor Wembanyama, not even really a criticism, just like this is how the Spurs choose to handle their unicorn. And you get it. The thought is, when we get deep in the playoffs and Wemby's got to go 38 minutes in a game, can he do it? Because it's not normally what happens. Does he have the endurance to do it when he's getting banged around by the big boys like Oklahoma City, like Minnesota, even like what we saw from Portland in round 1, roughing him up a little bit? Does he have the endurance to hang tough and stay in there and play 40 minutes in a game? How about almost 50 minutes? How about he saved the best for last? Victor Wembanyama at age 22, on the road in overtime, Game 1 Western Conference Final against the reigning defending NBA champion and the reigning defending two-time NBA Most Valuable Player, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, outscored the Thunder in the second overtime by himself. Wemby 9, Thunder 7 in double overtime. Unbelievable. 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 Let's all for a moment climb into the You Better You Bet time machine. I want to take everybody back 19 years ago. Because my guess is, if you are an NBA fan the way that I am, and if you're of a certain age, right, you're old enough to have seen this, right, which I'm guessing a lot of you are, right? Maybe not. But I'm guessing you're a sicko. You love it. You love it the way I love it. This show, by sickos for sickos, by diehard sports fans for diehard sports fans. We go back in time. Because last night was May 18th, 2026. We're going to go back almost 19 years. May 31st, 2007. Game 5, Eastern Conference Final. Cavs, Pistons. AKA the LeBron James, true, and obviously we all knew LeBron was special at that point already. But that was the moment when we all kind of collectively said, holy bleep, the takeover has happened. When LeBron ripped off 25 consecutive points against the Pistons, scored 48 in the game, 22-year-old LeBron James leading the Cavs to a win over the Pistons in Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals. The Cavs would eventually win that. So they would lose to San Antonio in the finals. But that was the moment where we all kind of said, oh my God, the takeover is here. It has happened. And basketball will never be the same. How about May 18th, 2026, a.k.a. last night? Age 22, Victor Wembanyama, 41 points, 24 boards, 49 minutes, as the Spurs beat the Thunder without De'Aaron Fox, by the way. Like, that's very underreported because there's so much coming out of this game that I think people are failing, and I don't even think it's a failure. It's just so much happened. Like, De'Aaron Fox, the steadying guard of this team, and like we'll get into Castle and especially Dylan Harper, like De'Aaron Fox doesn't play in the game. Sprained ankle doesn't play. No big deal. Spurs go on the road and win game number 1. Thanks to the heroics of this dude, Victor Wembanyama. And before we kind of spin this forward in the series, we need to talk a little more about Wemby. Let's call a spade a spade. Let's be totally honest. Victor Wembanyama is the best player in the world. Does anyone want to argue with me that Wemby is the best player in the world right now? It does not mean that the Spurs are going to win this series. Doesn't mean that. The Thunder are awesome. I actually still think the Thunder are going to win the series. I think they'll come out with adjustments. I would imagine SGA will play better. We'll get to him. It does not mean the Spurs will win the series. But how can you argue? I'm being serious. What is a legitimate, good faith argument that Victor Wembanyama is not the best player in the world already? What is it? What's the argument that SGA is better than Wemby? That Jokic is better than Wemby? That Giannis is better than Wemby? That Luka is better than Wemby? Someone construct the argument for me. The reason why you can't make the argument, and again, it doesn't mean the Spurs are going to win the title, but the reason why you can't make this argument is because Victor Wembanyama is a create a player in a video game. Like, he's not real, except he is. You watch what he's doing on the court, and like, I'm thinking to myself, like when I played NBA Live in 1995, which I believe was the first NBA game, the first basketball game where you could create your own player. I don't think you could do it in 94. And You create, and I created like a shooting guard who was like a 99 three-pointer, 99 driving to the basket. Victor Wembanyama is a creative player. We've never seen anything like it. And everybody says it, and everybody has said it, and yet it's still, when you watch it, you still can't believe it, even though you know it's true. You know it's true. You see it happen, and you're still shocked by it. There's no way that you can tell me, you the person that watched the game last night, there's no way you can tell me that you're just watching this being like, oh yeah, no big deal. Even though you know he's capable of it, you can't tell me that it's not jarring to watch this. And the reason why he's already the best player is because, like, SGA's awesome. Victor Wembanyama's 7'4". And you can't teach that. You can't teach height. And it's not just the height, because we've seen tall-ass, lanky-ass basketball players in the past. Here's 7'7" Manute Bol. Here's George Murasan. I mean, Yao Ming was a great player at 7'6". We have seen really tall players in the NBA. We have seen excellent outside shooters. We saw Steph Curry a decade ago bang a shot home in OKC from the logo, eliciting the rare double bang from Mike Breen, one of the most famous shots in the history of the NBA regular season. Victor Wembanyama made one last night in overtime to tie the game at 108 when it looked like the Thunder were going to escape with the win in the first overtime period. All good. 7'4". Like, could you imagine George Murasan pulling up from the logo and drilling one? Could you imagine it? In a million years, that ever happening? No. 7'4". Can shoot from the outside. Dominates down low. The impact that this dude has defensively, and I know that you all know this, but it's still, when you watch it, you can't even process it. The fact that he sits there in the lane like a boss in a video game that you're trying to avoid. And every time someone drives into the lane, you have to change your shot and take a worse shot, because if you don't, Wemby's going to send the ball into the front row. How many layups last night does OKC attempt where here's like Jalen Williams, J-Dub, who's really good last night. He's a really good player. But top 20 player in the league when he's totally healthy. When he's driving to the basket and like Wemby's there, so Jalen Williams has to take and misses a layup. Do you know who misses layups? Me. When I play basketball in my backyard, I miss layups. You know who doesn't miss layups? Jalen Williams. Do you know who misses layups when Victor Wembanyama's around? Everybody, including Jalen Williams. The handle is ridiculous. So it's like, you put all these things together, this guy, he's a creative player. Like, it's not SGA's fault that he's not as good as Wemby, or he can't be as good as Wemby. It's not Jokic's fault. It's not Giannis's fault. It's not Luka's fault. It's not possible, if this guy's going to play like this, for anyone to be as good at him, as good as he is, because he's 7'4", and you can't teach that. That's it. Now, the one thing that you could say about Wemby that's a negative, potentially, right? And it's not. But just like if it were, let's say that Wemby were docile. Let's say that Wemby lacked the killer instinct. And Wemby didn't want to embarrass the competition. And Wemby didn't take things personally. And Wemby was more interested in, like standing at a waterfall and writing a haiku or painting a nature trail. Then maybe you can say, okay, when it comes down to it, the other team's going to want it more. They're going to bully that SOB. And that's just going to be what it is. No. This dude wants to rip your throat out. He marries the qualities that we see in physically with some of the best players in the history, and he's so young. And I'm not saying he's like as good a shooter as Steph, the handle of Kyrie. I'm not insinuating that. But when you put all of it together, all of his physical attributes with his size, and then you combine it with what appears to be, and it's early, but it looks like the will to win and the competitive desire of a Michael Jordan or a Kobe Bryant. And look, like, I'm sure there are lots of players in the NBA that have the will to win of a Kobe Bryant or a Michael Jordan, but they're not as good as Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan. Victor Wembanyama has the opportunity to be an all-time great, to truly sit in an elite class, and he has that level of competition. He has that desire to destroy you, to rip the Indiana Jones Temple of Doom style, rip your heart out and show it to you still beating. Where under 19 FIBA World Cup, when France loses to USA and Chet Holmgren wins MVP of the tournament, Victor Wembanyama, like Michael Jordan in The Last Dance, took that personally. Victor Wembanyama has some MJ in him, where he is going to take little slights and use it as motivation to step on your throat. Oh, Chet Holmgren's going to be the MVP of this tournament? I'm going to embarrass him. Oh, SGA's going to be the MVP, and he's going to get the announcement before the game and receive the adulation from the crowd in Oklahoma City. Guess what I'm going to do? Upstage him, and I'm going to make the night about me, about moi. It's not going to be about Shea. It's going to be about moi, because he takes it personally. Now, he might not say he takes it personally, but then Spurs head coach Mitch Johnson goes to his press conference after the game. Mitch Johnson, by the way, is constantly grinning like the Cheshire Cat. Imagine this. First-time head coach you get handed this team with Wemby, Dylan Harper, and Steph Castle. And this dude hit the lottery. I'm not saying he's not a good coach, but I mean, man, what a situation to walk into. Could I coach this team to 50 wins? Maybe. Unbelievable. And Mitch Johnson says after the game, like, of course he's motivated by it. Look at how competitive he is. He wanted the MVP. Went and shoved it up everybody's rear end last night. 49 minutes, 41 points, 24 rebounds, 22 years old. Like LeBron James in 2007. Like, this is where we're at now with this dude. Even if they don't win, and maybe I'm being stubborn, I'm going to stick with the Thunder now to win the series and win it all. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be. I was wrong last night. Even if that's true, do you all understand like what's happening right now? That last night, like we will look back at last night 19 years from now, 20 years from now, 50 years from now, we will look back at May 18th, 2026, the way we look at May 31st, 2007. We knew LeBron was great. Obviously, we knew we knew when he was in high school he was great. But that was the moment where it was, holy crap. Look at what just happened on this stage. Victor Wembanyama did it last night. Freak show. Freak show. What are you supposed to do? And I'm going a little long here, but like there's so much to say. When you have, like, you know it's great. And like I've been around professional, it's not a brag, just like it's my job. I've been around professional athletes a lot over the course of my career. Spent time with former NBA players, current NBA players, off camera, on camera. Like, you can tell, I can tell, and I'm going to tell you how you can tell, right? Like, when they are truly amazed. Like, think about Jamal Crawford is not an all-time great, but he had a really good NBA career, right? Reggie Miller's an all-time great. And they were on the call of this game last night. They're just making, like, noises when Wemby does stuff. They're in awe. The camera would show the same. I think NBC did an awesome job here. Every time Wemby would do something ridiculous, the camera would show like De'Aaron Fox in street clothes on the Spurs bench and all the Spurs on the bench. And they're looking like they're in their local Starbucks and Taylor Swift just walked in. They're in amazement. They can't believe what they're watching. They play in the NBA. They can't believe it. They can't believe it. I can't believe it. And that's we should believe it because we all know it's true. We all know how good this guy is. But until you see it on a stage like this, that's when it becomes real. Now it's real. Now it's Wemby. And y'all pay homage to the man. You know, we're 24 minutes into the show. I feel like we still have like 10 things to discuss from this game last night. So many. We still got to talk about SGA and whatever the hell that was. Chet Holmgren, whatever the hell that was. He looks ready to 1-2-3 Cancun, this son of a bitch. We need to talk, like, speaking of the rarefied air Wemby's in, what about Dylan Harper at age 20? It's all just ludicrous and preposterous. And I'll tell you what, as a Knicks fan, yeah, I'm going to be pumped for the Eastern Conference Final. Then, like, I might just get in bed and pull the covers over my head. We are just getting started here on this Tuesday. You better you bet. Westwood One Sports, presented by BetMGM.
Spurs got numbers hungry now behind the plate. 5 on 4. Wemby's going to pull a deep three.
Oh my goodness! A logo shot.
28-footer. Ties it at 108.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports.
God MC, me, Jehovah. Victor Wembanyama, the takeover. Great job there by Kenny Henderson. Back from vacation, coming back from break. This segment on You Better You Bet, sponsored by Progressive Commercial Insurance, protecting small businesses with affordable coverage options. Get a quote today at progressivecommercial.com, progressivecommercial.com. Kenny, can you play it again? You play the highlight, and I want everybody to... Reggie Miller just starts laughing because it's so preposterous what happens here with this shot. Kenny, can you play the highlight one more time, please?
Spurs got numbers hungry now behind the plate. 5 on 4. Wemby's going to pull a deep three.
Oh my goodness! A logo shot.
28-footer. Ties it at 108.
I mean, what do you say? What do you say? What do you do? Nothing. Just nothing. The guy is unbelievable. He's unbelievable. Do you know who else is unbelievable? Like, I've said this a couple times now. It really bears repeating. And just, it doesn't mean that they're going to, because it sounds like I'm coronating the Spurs now. Like I'm giving them the championship. I'm saying that they're going to win it all. I'm not trying to say that at all. But do you all understand that Victor Wembanyama is 22? Stephon Castle, who had 32 points in the closeout game against the Timberwolves, is 21. And Dylan Harper, I know Ace Bailey wasn't Cooper Flagg or Con Knipple or Dylan Harper this year. Ace Bailey is going to be really good. How did Rutgers not win 1,000 games last year in college basketball with Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey? I mean, God. Dylan Harper starts it's just, I don't even, the Spurs are going to be here for the next 10 years. It's, as long as they stay healthy, it's over. It's over. They're going to be here, likely along with OKC. Dylan Harper is 20 years old. Starts last night in place of De'Aaron Fox. On the road against the reigning defending NBA champions. With the two-time NBA MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And all the defenders that OKC has. And the smothering defense. 24 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists. At 20. He's 20. 24, 11, and 6. On the road at OKC. Game 1, Western Conference Final. This is not hyperbole, what I'm about to say. It's not drama. It's not prisoner of the moment. This is Tony Parker. This is Luka Doncic. This is Magic Johnson. This is Kobe Bryant. Not an exaggeration. What would be an exaggeration would be if I said Dylan Harper is going to be as good as those guys when it's all said and done. Maybe he won't be. Who the hell knows? That I don't know. But what is not an exaggeration is to say that is the company that he keeps following this performance last night. Now, I am a betting man, and we talk about it every day on the show. What the San Antonio Spurs did here, and we'll get to OKC, I promise, but there's, a lot to get. This was like a seismic game last night that's going to, I think, change the next 5 to 10 years potentially in the NBA. What the Spurs did the last 3 years, going Wemby, Castle, Harper. I'm trying to think of what the odds would be on a 3-leg parlay. You bet $10 to win $1 million and you cash. It's things like this shouldn't happen. And I'm not hating on them. I wish this would happen to my favorite team. But the fact that it's Wemby, because look, you can make draft picks, right? It doesn't mean the picks you make, the high picks, are going to be good. I just, let's just for bleeps and giggles, let's take a look at the 2000. I mean, God, you want to get depressed? If you're a fan of the Hawks, the Wizards, or the Rockets, the first 3 picks of the 2024 NBA draft: Atlanta, Zachary Risache, who, I'm trying to think of what the French equivalent is from Risache to Wembanyama in America. I don't know if I could say it without getting in trouble. Risache can't even crack the rotation in the playoffs. Alex Sarr goes second to the Wizards. Reed Shepherd goes third to the Rockets. Steph Castle goes fourth. You think the Rockets could have used Steph Castle this year after Van Vliet's injury? Do you think we'd be feeling different about the Wizards' development if Steph Castle were on the team? Imagine Atlanta and who knows what. I mean, obviously they had Trae Young at the time, but still, Steph Castle? Who's better right now, Steph Castle or Trae Young? Be honest. It's Castle. And now Dylan Harper. And oh yeah, the unicorn, the alien, the freak known as Victor Wembanyama. I might start trending into hyperbolic category here. That might start happening right now. And I'm being honest about that. You bet on this Tuesday, Nick Kostos and you. So let's have a conversation. And look, I don't mean to dismiss the Knicks or the Cavs, but let's play this out a little bit. And we'll get to the Eastern Conference Final, right? After last year, entering this year, and we'll have Jay Croucher on the show next hour, and he's been Team Thunder all season. I've been Team Thunder all season. I'm curious if he's changing his tune a little bit. I'm still sticking with OKC. But let's play this out. Have an honest conversation about this while acknowledging it's not guaranteed to happen, but what if it does? So OKC wins the title last year, right? And we are all talking about the potential dynasty for this team, given all the young players, all the assets that they still have. Are they going to be able to win 2, 3, 4 out of 5, 3 out of 5? How's this going to go? We are 1 year into it for OKC. So they've won 1 title. Now they're in their title defense. And another team has emerged that might be better than they are. Might be. I still like OKC, for now at least. Another team has emerged that might be better than they are. Now, the analogy is not going to be a perfect one that I'm going to draw here. It's not perfect, admittedly. But this kind of feels like the 95 Atlanta Braves. In 95, the Braves break through and beat the Indians in the World Series. Atlanta's World Series champions. 96, Braves-Yankees. And Atlanta goes to Yankee Stadium for games 1 and 2, and 18-year-old Andrew Jones launches moonshot after moonshot, announcing himself to the world, and the Braves head back to Atlanta up 2-0 in the series. Now the rest is history, right? The Yankees win 4 straight games, win in 96, they beat the Braves again in 98, in 99, they beat the Padres in 98, they beat the Mets in 2000. The Yankees take the dynasty away from Atlanta, took it from them. Is that what's about to happen here? One team potentially on the cusp of a dynasty, and another team just comes and steals it from it. Could that be what's happening here? Is that so crazy? Wemby 22, Castle 21, Harper 20. And oh yeah, De'Aaron Fox didn't play in the game last night. Are you kidding? Champagne's got balls the size of grapefruits. Vassell, Keldon Johnson just saying, yeah, the 6th man of the year, dust him off when we need him. It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Let's take a break now. And on the other side, we'll talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder. And went wrong for OKC last night. Chet Holmgren, I'm sure, is having a rough one today. We'll talk about SGA, Chet Holmgren, J-Dub, and what OKC needs to do moving forward to get back into the series starting in Game 2 tomorrow night, right after this on a Tuesday. You bet. Westwood One Sports.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos and the crew. Presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
The conference finals are here with two great matchups. That's underselling it. But Thunder Spurs is legendary. Be part of the playoff action when you bet with boosted odds. Activate your odds boost token for any bet on the NBA playoffs, and you'll receive a bigger payout if your bet wins. Get ready for tip-off with BetMGM. Download the BetMGM app today, and please, 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 please gamble responsibly. The Oklahoma City Thunder were the losers in last night's game. And if you are looking to take something positive away from the loss for the Thunder, I don't know how successful you'd be doing that, but if you were trying to draw a positive, I think it would be that SGA, and look, things are relative, right? I say this sometimes. A bad game for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a good game for like 93% of the NBA. I don't know why I pulled 93 out of my derriere, but 90, whatever. A good game for the vast majority of players in the NBA. So it's not like he's horrendous. He's just not what you expect from the two-time reigning defending most valuable player. And in a game where Shai Gilgeous-Alexander plays way below what we expect from him, and honestly, like it's not a one-on-one, but Wemby kind of made him look silly, if we're being honest, right? On the night that Shai officially received his MVP. On a night where Shai doesn't play that great, minus 15 in the game. On a night where Chet Holmgren, who has probably emerged overall, like not last night, like J-Dub was great last night, but Chet Holmgren's probably, when it all comes down to it, probably actually the second best player on the team on the Thunder. Certainly was this season. And the second most important player on the Thunder, given his size. Given the fact that, the Thunder win a million games without Jalen Williams, and J-Dub's awesome. But I think Chet Holmgren's probably the second best player on the team, the second most important player on the team. Chet was not just bad. I mean, I'm trying to think of a way that I could say this that isn't insulting. Wemby made him look silly. He bullied him. He got Chet off his game. Wemby takes him out of the game, and Wemby gets him out of his head, where Chet is committing stupid fouls, like brain-dead fouls, where you watch it and you're thinking like, bro, like this isn't a Tuesday night in December against the Raptors. This is game 1 of the Western Conference Final against San Antonio. Like, Chet, what are you doing, dude? So SGA plays way below what you expect from him. Chet plays way below what you expect from him. And you could still argue that they should have won the game. Where if Wemby doesn't make that logo 3, like basically from almost the same, Curry's a little farther back than Wemby, on Curry's iconic 3 in that February back in 2016 Warriors Thunder. If Wemby doesn't make that shot, like the Thunder probably win the game. And the conversation's a little different this morning. So Thunder almost won despite that. Now, they got it from J-Dub with 26 points and a really great game, a nuclear game, probably going to be the best playoff game in the career of Alex Caruso, who is a menace defensively. Like, he's everywhere. He looks like E. Honda in Street Fighter when you would just spam the punch button and his arms everywhere, going everywhere. With the steals and the blocks and the three-pointers. Like, he shot the ball like prime Klay Thompson last night from downtown. Like, Alex Caruso scored 31 points last night and went 8 of 14 from 3. He's the best player on the Thunder last night. By a lot. By a lot. A.J. Mitchell, 34 minutes, only 4 points. Jared McCain, 18 minutes, only 7 points. Lou Dort, 5 points. Hartenstein can only play 12 minutes in the game and only scores 2 points. Like, they're in... Now, you're not going to get a Caruso game like that moving forward. Most likely, right? Probably not. Are you going to get a better game from Chet Holmgren? You'd hope so. You would hope, seriously. Even just take betting out of it, take fandom out of it. Just like you watch basketball, you would think that that's the worst Chet Holmgren's going to look in this whole series. And you would also think that that's the worst SGA will look this entire series. Now, Mark Daigneault, the coach of the Thunder, speaking post-game, credited San Antonio, credited Mitch Johnson for the way that they blitzed SGA. So SGA would get the ball, right? Basically dribble past half court and would immediately have two guys on him. And the Thunder offense would largely stall from there. And the defense, and this is kind of a weird thing to say. In a strange way, watching this game last night and watching the way SGA got defended and SGA, the difficulty he had scoring the basketball, actually made me appreciate Steph Curry a little bit more. I know that's kind of a weird analogy to draw, but Steph gets guarded like this all the time and just runs 10 miles a game and still manages to get his shots off. I'm not saying SGA is bad, just that the defense that he faced last night, he had a problem with. Now, Mark Daigneault did say after the game that problem solving is one of OKC's specialties. And they have some problems to solve following game number 1. My guess is they'll solve them, or at least come up with a plan to solve them, right? Maybe Victor Wembanyama is unsolvable. We'll see. What I think also should make you sleep a little easier at night, if like me, you've bet on OKC to win the championship, you like OKC, you're a Thunder fan, is yes, they're on this great run, but they trailed in a couple playoff series last year. They trailed the Nuggets a couple times, lost game 1, lost game 3 to Denver in the second round. Lost game 1, lost game 3 in the NBA Finals to the Indiana Pacers. So this is not totally unfamiliar territory for Oklahoma City. You're trailing in a best-of-7 series in the postseason. And we did see them come out last year, not totally backs against the wall seasonal, although we did see it in game 7, but Halliburton blows his Achilles out. You understand what I'm saying. It's not a full backs-against-the-wall situation facing elimination, but we've seen the Thunder in this spot come out and respond in a big way. Betting market for Game 2 is the same point spread as it was in Game 1. OKC is 6.5-point favorite. Now, I lost some money last night laying the points with OKC. I'm not sure I want to do that again, but I still feel like the Thunder are going to find a way to win this series, and that the experience is going to win out. And OKC, for as good as San Antonio is, and we wax poetic on that for a large portion of this hour, OKC's still awesome. Now, what I was almost certainly wrong about is my Thunder in 5 prediction. They're not winning the next 4 games. That's not happening. Going to be a long series. Thunder in 7? Did you see that happening? OKC, still at BetMGM, a small favorite to win the series, -115 compared to -105 for the Spurs. And OKC, a plus price now to win the NBA title. If and when OKC wins Game 2 tomorrow night, think about what those prices will be. I'm back in on Oklahoma City to win the NBA championship and win the West at these prices. And maybe I'm burning money at the altar of Victor Wembanyama. Time will tell. Hour 1 done. Hour 2 for you coming up on the other side. We'll talk about Knicks Cavs next hour, but we'll start the hour talking Stanley Cup playoffs with our good friend Liam McHugh of Turner Sports here on Westwood One Sports.
are on You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos.
Hey, this is Joe Buck, and you have done it. You have found it. You are listening to You Better You Bet. Great decision.
Hi, this is Kevin Harlan of CBS, Westwood One, and TNT, and I'm listening as you do every day to You Better You Bet with the most handsome single man in the radio business. A man who, if I was not married for 38 years, I might consider myself the kind of guy that can electrify a listening audience and a crowd of bystanders watching him do what he does so well each and every day. Continue to listen right here on You Better You Bet.
This is You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports, brought to you by BetMGM.
The terrific Sports Tuesday edition of You Better You Bet rolls on. Nick Kostos, our crew, and you here on Westwood One Sports. I mean, sometimes, the first hour of this show just like writes itself. You watch the Spurs Thunder game last night and you're just like, well, I know what we're talking about for the first 60 minutes of the show today. Victor Wembanyama, May 18th, 2026. Might as well have been May 31st, 2007, when LeBron James at age 22 ripped off 25 straight against the Pistons in Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Final. We all knew LeBron was special, just like we knew heading into last night Victor Wembanyama is special. But last night, it really became real. 41 points, 24 boards, 49 minutes, 22 years old. And I think he's the best player in the world. And it's not an insult to SGA or Nikola Jokic or Luka Doncic or Giannis Antetokounmpo. None of them are 7'4", and you can't teach that. Also, Dylan Harper's 20, and he looks like a young Magic Johnson, a young Kobe Bryant, a young Tony Parker, a young Luka Doncic. Not hyperbole. That's the company he's keeping after his performance last night. I do think OKC will still win the series, probably in 7. And I do think you'll get a bounce-back effort from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in Game 2, the MVP who got embarrassed by Wemby last night. I know the game's not one-on-one, but you know what I'm saying. And how could Chet Holmgren not be better than he was last night? He was horrific, and I think he would be the first one to admit it, that he fell well short of expectations last night. We will get to the Eastern Conference Final, Game 1 tonight at Madison Square Garden with the Knicks and the Cavs coming up in a little bit, and the horror that I felt. Some people talk about, Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th, best horror, Halloween, best horror movies ever. As a Knicks fan, I think last night is the best horror movie I've ever watched with the Spurs and the Thunder, what might await the Knicks in the NBA Finals. So we'll get to that coming up a little later in the show. But joining us right now to kick off the hour, this is always a treat to have him on the show. The face and the voice of the NHL's coverage on Turner Sports. They will be bringing you the Eastern Conference Final, which was locked in last night with Montreal's unbelievable Game 7 win on the road in Buffalo. The one, the only, the legendary, the very handsome. The facial hair looks great. Our good friend Liam McHugh here on You Better You Bet on Twitter at Liam_McHugh. My friend, welcome back to the show. How's it going? Happy conference finals, my friend, in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
It is great. It's great to be on with you. I feel like I can relate to the Carolina Hurricanes. We've been sitting around waiting for this as well. We didn't have the last couple of games, man. I've just been sitting here. People around my community are like, why are you here? Like, why are you at home? Why are you with your children? Like, we never see you this time of year. I think there was like some fear that maybe I just lost my job and I was just hanging out now. But I'm pumped, man. This is great. Unbelievable way to end that series last night. Game 7, overtime. I feel gutted for the Buffalo Sabres. I absolutely do. But it's just the beginning for them. And now we get this very strange series, right? Where one team's been waiting around forever and another team's coming off back-to-back Game 7 victories.
So I think, we'll get to the games in a second, but I thought what you said to start was so fascinating. Like, I remember when I went on, far be it from me to make it about me, but when when we had my first child a couple years ago, you go on a paternity leave, I was off for a month, and you come back, and I think it's funny, right, when you're off for a little bit, and I kind of feel like it's like getting on a bicycle, right? I saw people ask me that. So you've been off for a little bit, right? What about rest v. rust as far as like broadcasting is concerned a little bit? Because you referenced it, right? Like you've been waiting around for this to start. I'm guessing, obviously, and I'm being partly tongue-in-cheek when I say that, but I think it is a fun topic to bring up, right? Because you guys will be back in the saddle coming up in a couple nights with the Eastern Conference Final.
You know what? It's a weird thing, and listen, I don't want to like bore people with like the minutia of our jobs or ever complain about
this
because,
audience loves
listen,
it. No, this audience, my audience, like is trained to love this. Go on, yes.
We're very lucky to do this. I'll preface it that way. We're lucky to do this. However, you know what? You get a few days off, and you're right. It feels weird. It's like riding a bike, except that like you're gonna have those bumps in the road, and you're gonna fall, and you're like, oh, well, that was awful. Like, what just happened to me? Meanwhile, on those days, like those weeks during the playoffs specifically, where it's like double overtime and triple overtime, and it feels like you've never left, and you're just like you're promoting the next day's coverage, and you realize it's like, oh, that's starting in like 5 hours. What time is it right now? Those shows, they flow. Because you're just going and you never stop and you never get out of that mode. And I've done the Olympics before, and that's sort of like that, where it's like every day. It's almost easier in a way. This is a little bit more difficult, but I will say it's all about the group you work with. And I work with a group of guys that are just fantastic and easy to get along with. And when we go on the road together, it feels like it's summer camp all of a sudden. I'm just hoping everybody shows up. From the night before, and we don't lose anybody because it's such a good group of guys, and it's kind of just like a cool hang watching hockey.
I say this to you every time you come on the show, and I would say it if you're not here, right? And I think the audience knows this because they watch, and we all love sports, right? I think it's easy for the audience to tell that you guys, A, like each other, and B, like the subject material, and that you're having a great time. It comes across on the TV screen. And again, I'm not just saying that because you're here. I would say it if you weren't here. And I think everybody would agree with that you guys do a sensational job. So we can preview the Eastern Conference Final. Go ahead.
No, I'm just gonna say, listen, like I hope it comes across that way because it is that way. Like it doesn't feel like work. I mean, it's a bunch of guys, and I will say this, like over the last few days, I'm just getting texts. Like random text. And Gretzky has this thing. Oh my God. Gretzky is right back into the 80s and 90s when he sees goalies go down to their knees and the puck's going over their head. And he's like, nobody played goalie like that back in the day. And guess what? Nobody had the puck buzz their ear and go in. And if it happens in a game, I know that a text is coming, which is the coolest thing in the world to get a text from Wayne Gretzky.
I was just going to ask.
And it pops up on your phone. And my kid's watching and he goes, Dad, Wayne Gretzky's texting again. I'm like, yeah, he's complaining about the goalies. It's the coolest thing, and I think it's just indicative of the entire group and how we communicate basically throughout the entire year. So.
How do you feel when you look at your phone and see Wayne Gretzky's texting you?
It's still a little surreal. It's very odd. The first. Listen, I mean, I knew him. I met him like once or twice before I started working with him, and then a week after working with him. He called me and I was like, well, this is interesting. And he said, hey, Liam, I've noticed that you've been putting your glasses up and down a lot and maybe they're not working. Well, I have this great eye doctor in New York and you're living there and you should go see him. And I have this whole conversation. It's like very detailed about doctors and optometrists and your eyesight. And I get off the phone and my wife has just like overheard this from the other room. She goes, who was that? I said that was Wayne Gretzky. He's concerned about my
greatest
vision.
athlete ever. The greatest athlete ever, probably in any sport. And it's so funny, right? Just to realize, like when you deal with someone who's like that great as Gretzky was, of course he's gonna like treat his regular life right the way, because you don't turn that off, that instinct that he had, because he probably treats his optometry the way he treated the power play in Edmonton in the 80s.
And he's just so laid back and chill that he's like, yeah, well, I thought this. Why wouldn't I just call you and have a chat about it? And I'm like, okay, Wayne Gretzky, sounds great. Give me a call whenever.
Absolutely, man. All right, let's talk some hockey here. And, I've been saying it, Liam, I felt this way during the Montreal-Tampa series. And when Montreal won Game 7 on the road in Tampa the way that they did, right, getting outshot in the game and kind of like stealing that, and to me kind of felt like, and I've said it on the show, maybe putting the final nail in this dynastic run for Vasilevsky and Cooper and this Lightning team, they kind of have like a Team of Destiny vibe to me. And I was obsessed with the Canadiens Sabres. I loved this second round series. I thought it was great. Great Game 7 last night. And how could you not be gutted for Buffalo? Happy for Montreal. How do you put it in perspective for both teams? And then we'll talk about Montreal and Carolina in the Eastern Conference Final.
Well, you go into it and you know that these are the two youngest teams that made the playoffs. And you look at Montreal and they have the just slight edge in experience. I mean, Sabres had no experience. They hadn't made the playoffs in forever. And they had, I think, 15 players where this was a totally new experience. They had never played in the playoffs for any team, let alone Buffalo. Montreal just had a taste of it. They got there last year. They played against Washington. They got pushed around a little bit. They got to experience Tom Wilson, a brawl on the bench, what all the hype was about. They got to experience what Montreal was like during the playoffs, which is a totally different level than anything we really get to see here in the U.S. And I think they gained a lot from that. I think they took something away where they don't have to be at their best to win a big playoff game. And I think that's a tough thing for most of these teams to learn. And it's something that the Sabres did learn throughout this, where they did win a few games where they weren't at their best. But I think you're looking at this is the next step for the Sabres. They will get there next year and then the year after, and they're built to win for years to come. Montreal, I think they believe in their goalie. And this guy, Jakub Dobiš, is starting to remind people of the fact that Montreal had a lot of luck with young goalies in the past. Ken Dryden, Patrick Waugh, guys who came in and way before anyone expected them to, delivered. He is unbelievably confident. He thinks that he's going to win every single game. He thinks he's going to stop every single shot. And after last night's game, I thought was great. They're like, that was 2 game 7s. This one was overtime. It's exhausting. We're all like, can't believe what's happening. He said, I could play 40 more of these right now. And I think that's where they are. They believe they're a team of destiny. And Marty St. Louis, their head coach, is a big reason why. I think he said all the right things. He's pushed all the right buttons. And he's basically told these guys, I've been there. I've done that. This is the time you enjoy it. And if you can get a young team to believe that this is the time you're not under pressure and this is the time you get to enjoy it, you've got something special. So we'll see. The other 3 teams were division champs. They were supposed to be here. Montreal was probably not. They're probably a couple of years away. They've advanced that schedule, and they believe they belong.
And it's funny when you're talking. You mentioned Waugh and you mentioned Dryden, and I'm thinking, to a lesser extent because they didn't win cups, but even like a Jose Teodoro or like a Carey Price, and Dobiš saying getting pulled in Game 6 motivated him to come out in Game 7. I mean, it is fascinating stuff what's happening right now at the Canadiens. And that takes us, Liam, into this matchup, which again you guys will have on Turner, right, which is the Eastern Conference Final with Montreal and Carolina. And we've never seen since playoff expansion, right, I think in 1984, a team sweep each of the first 2 rounds of the postseason like the Hurricanes did. Now, they've been off for what feels like a month here after annihilating the Flyers in the second round. And you've been doing this a long time, right? And we've seen they're kind of a little bit like the Josh Allen Bills of the National Hockey League, where they're there every year under Rod Brind'Amour, but they can't get over the hump. And is this going to be the year? And I have my doubts. How do you kind of view this series heading in with everything going on in the past and the baggage that the Carolina Hurricanes bring in?
I'm with you. I still have my doubts. I would say that, listen, they swept those first 2 rounds. I thought the Ottawa series was actually a lot closer than most people will say. And people should remember a few years ago in the Eastern Conference Final, they got swept by Florida. And what did Rod Brind'Amour say? That really wasn't a sweep. Every game was one goal. Yes. Right. And everyone's like, all right, Rod, you got swept. But truth be told, we did that Eastern Conference Final, and we had one of the longest games in Stanley Cup playoff history. We had another overtime game, and we had all 1-goal games. So it was tight. I look at the Ottawa series as, well, if you believe that, Rod, then you should look at the first round and say that really wasn't a sweep, because that was a really tight series where you could have lost a few of those games. The second round, I think they got a Flyers team that probably wasn't expected to be there. They didn't expect to be there. They were spent after playing Pittsburgh. And let's be honest, just making the playoffs was big for them. And then beating Pittsburgh, if you're Philadelphia and you weren't supposed to be in the playoffs, that was essentially your Stanley Cup. So I think you're talking about a major step up for them in competition. And I hate the time off. Hate the time off for this team. 8-0, playing this well right now, healthy as a team, and sitting around now. Rod the Bod is their coach. So chances are they've been in the gym like 3 times a day, and they're staying fit and they're staying ready, but it's not the same. And Henrik Lundqvist, who's on the panel, I asked him, he said he had about a week off one time. It was a long time. He goes, that first game is rough. He's like, because that other team is ready to go, and they know they're probably going to run out of gas in the third period because they just played. So they're coming at you in the first and second period, and they are just trying to pour it on you. So we'll see a lot and learn a lot about Carolina in the first and second period of that game 1. I I want them to prove it, right? They, I believe, are something like 30-10 over the first 2 rounds of the playoffs over the last 5 years, and then 4 or 5 years, and then they are a 1-win team in the Eastern Conference Final, right? They have been there 3 of the last 4. It's now 3 of the last 4 years. They cannot seem to win these games. That being said, they played Florida a lot. They don't have to deal with the Florida Panthers here. This is a different animal. I want them to prove it. I think they have what it takes, but I would say this. I'm not sitting here saying I see an 8-0 team that's ready to roll and sweep another team. I do not think that's going to happen. They're going to get pushed. They're going to get tested here.
I've been saying for a little bit now, whoever won this series, Montreal and Buffalo, I was going to bet that team against Carolina. I will bet Les Habitants to win the Eastern Conference here and beat the Carolina Hurricanes. And Liam and company will have it for you on Turner Sports. Couple more minutes with our friend Liam McHugh here on You Better You Bet, Westwood One Sports. Just want to get a thought on the Western Conference Final with Colorado and Vegas before we get you out of here. Colorado, the favorite, not only to win the series, but to win the Stanley Cup. Do you see it that way? Because Vegas has been great since John Tortorella took over.
I think they're the favorite, but there is a huge what if, and the what if is what if Cale Makar is not close to 100%? Because when Cale Makar is 100%, you can make the argument he's the best player in the world. Not the best defenseman, he's the best player in the world. I think that I know that's sacrilege when you're talking about McJesus and McDavid, and you're talking about McKinnon being his teammate and Kucherov. I think he is that dynamic. He is the best all-around defenseman easily. He's a guy who can change a series, change a game. He has not been 100%. In fact, I would say the last few games he hasn't even been close. And that would worry me a lot because these are bruising series. And what we saw against Minnesota, I would expect to continue. Minnesota pounded Cale Makar. They hit him at every single opportunity. And you better believe Vegas is coming in there saying the exact same thing. He has the puck. Put the body on him, make him pay for it. And if he is struggling up and down the ice, I think it's a long series. And I would then say it's more of a coin flip. If he's healthy, I like Colorado to roll because I think top to bottom, they are the better team. And I think Vegas is playing, let's be honest, this is what Connor McDavid called the pillow fight division that they came out of. And it really has been that track on the way here. They have had the easier track, the easier path, the easier opponents. Mitch Marner's playing great. Jack Eichel's playing great. But overall, I would say Colorado is a much deeper, much better team. They should roll. But man, Cale Makar and his injury status worries me a lot.
Have you ever seen anything like what Vegas did after winning the last round where, like, no one does any media and they get fined? Like, they won and they don't talk to the media. Like, have you ever seen anything like that? I know Tortorella's a different guy. I'm a Rangers fan. I know that. Like, what are they doing? Like, what the hell is that?
First of all, it was so surprising to us because we spoke to Mitch Marner right after. We got him right on. So we had this conversation with him. He was joking around a bit. He was in a great mood. I mean, why not? He'd been such a dynamic force throughout. And John Tortorella actually walked in front of the camera, while he was like, oh, that was torts. He's like, so I was like, oh, he's probably in a good mood. He's kidding around with people. And then to find that out after, I was blown away. And then you realize they've been warned, they've been through this, and now you're losing a draft pick. But beyond that, here's my thing. You have built up so much goodwill in a short amount of time. If you're John Tortorella with that team, right? You came on, they were floundering, you righted the ship, you've been winning with them, you've got them into the Western Conference Final, and now people at home in Vegas believe we can make another run. And then all of a sudden, you kind of threw that away. And people are wondering, what exactly are you doing? Why would you do this right now? Why would you create a distraction? Now, Torts knows better than I, and maybe he knows his team, and he thinks that this is the best thing for them. But it seemed odd because the story was so good before that moment, and then it changed dramatically. And then this is really all people were talking about with Vegas.
They got docked a second-round pick coming up in the draft. It's very strange. You have time for one more here?
Yeah, buddy.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned Connor McDavid. Now, I understand, and look, I'm not insinuating that it's not true. I'm sure it's true that McDavid's dealing with some kind of foot injury, right? It's just shocking, right? And it's no disrespect to Joel Quenneville's a great coach, and like Anaheim pushed Vegas in the second round. It's genuinely shocking to, and you know this world way better than me. But to me, as like a casual, like I like hockey in the regular season, I love it in the playoffs. It was stunning watching Edmonton lose in the first round to Anaheim, and it kind of makes me feel like, you know, they fire Chris Knoblauch feels like the right thing, even if he's a good coach. It's kind of like they got to get over the hump here. Like, what's going to happen with Connor McDavid down the line here? You know he'll be on the Oilers next year. So I guess the way I'll frame this question to you is, what do you think Edmonton needs to do to ensure that McDavid stays there long term? Because it feels to me like a divorce is coming down the line.
I don't know. Listen, I know what they need to do. I don't think they're capable of doing it. I think they need a pretty big roster revamp. I mean, and it starts in net, which is an area that they absolutely butchered, because they took a goalie in Stuart Skinner that got them to 2 Stanley Cup finals. And I get it. If they had a better goalie, maybe they win one of those 2. But still, he got you there. He got you to Game 6 and Game 7. And what did they do? They traded him for another goalie. Okay? They also traded a starting defenseman who right now is playing valuable minutes for Colorado, because he got traded from Pittsburgh after that, for a goalie who essentially is a backup, because they just needed to have a different goalie. And that can't be the way you operate. You cannot trade a starting goalie and a starting D-man for a backup goalie who, mind you, also has 2 more years on his contract at over $5 million, which is going to hamper you from making roster decisions in the future in those last 2 years that you have Connor McDavid. And because of that move, I don't know that there's a lot that they can do now, because this was the worst roster, in my opinion, of the last few years that Connor McDavid played with. And that's a disaster. A disaster. He gave you 2 years, essentially, to make this thing right. And you know what, Nick? Now we're down to 1 year, because you're not going to let him go for nothing. So you have 1 year, because in that second year, if it's not working out, trading him. There is no way you can let him walk. You would have to trade him, and you'd have to get a king's ransom back. I don't think there's enough for them to get back. I think they'll get back to the playoffs. I think they'll be competitive if they're healthy. I don't think they get over the hump with McDavid right now, unless something dramatic happens and they steal a goalie somehow, steal a defenseman, and get better and smarter with their depth players. Because right now, the coach, yeah, great, you make a coaching change. Maybe that'll help a little bit. That was not the issue. The roster as it was constructed was the issue.
Wow, and this is like, for if you're an Oilers fan, like Gretzky gets traded in the late 80s to the Kings, but at least you won like 3 Stanley Cups with Wayne before that happened. And like Messier won you another one a couple of years later. Can Leon Draisaitl do that without McDavid? It's crazy. Listen, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, what does that mean for Leon Draisaitl? Do you think he's going to be a happy guy after a couple of years if McDavid leaves and he sees this roster around him and he's like, well, this isn't really what I signed up for? So now you get another guy. It's a disaster right now. It's unfortunate. They
fumbled.
Close.
They fumbled this. Like, how do you screw this up?
They absolutely did. And if you look at Colorado specifically, Colorado a year ago at the beginning of the season, they didn't like their goalie situation. They remade it completely. They got 2 new goalies. Those are their goalies right now. They can use either one of them. They're both starters. They didn't overpay. They got those guys. You're telling me that you couldn't get one of those 2 guys? You telling me that you couldn't find someone in the league who was just slightly better than what you had, and then you didn't have to give up what you gave? I don't know. I'm worked up about this because we've talked about it so many times, and it still doesn't make any sense to me. And I think the more I talk about it, the less sense it makes.
And look, and for what we do for a living, like you want. It's great that Edmonton's really good. We're talking about them for like 8 minutes here. You want this to work out, and you've been very generous with your time. I'd love to talk to you about the Maple Leafs and that disaster, but you've already been very generous. Check Liam and the crew on Turner Sports have you covered. Eastern Conference Final the entire way through. The Montreal Canadiens, les habitants against the Carolina Hurricanes. My friend, you're absolutely the best. I appreciate the time.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate you, man.
My friend Liam McHugh joining us here on You Better You Bet. I mean, I love what he has to say about the Edmonton Oilers. Just like, really? Tristan Jarry and Connor Ingram? For Connor McDavid? What a joke. Take a break. On the other side, Jay Croucher is one of the best sports bettors in the world. He's loved the Thunder all season. How's he feeling this morning? I'll ask him next.
unbelievable, folks. He's unbelievable.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports.
Segment on You Better You Bet, sponsored by Progressive Commercial Insurance, protecting your business vehicles 24/7. See if you can save at progressivecommercial.com, progressivecommercial.com. You know, you think of NBC. Just like you think about it. Who gets more airtime on NBC? Multiple choice question. A, Mike Tirico. B, Jerry Seinfeld. C, Jay Croucher. Might just be C. One of the best sports bettors on the planet, NBC sports betting analyst, the saucy Aussie, our good friend Jay Croucher joins us here on You Better You Bet on Twitcher, which is a combination of your last name and Twitter. Not on you. Hopefully never. You and Jaylen Brown and Stephen A. at Croucher JD. Welcome back to the show, my friend. How are you?
Very well, Nick. Yeah, action-packed day yesterday. But yeah, no, it was a great night of basketball. I was glad that I could be part of it with my 15-second hit with Melo, where the NBC, who you just mentioned, they do a magnificent job of positioning me in relation to Melo, where he only looks 3 inches taller than me as opposed to 8. So very.
You stand on a box?
I don't stand on a box. No, they just, Jimmy does the camera work. He positions the jib in such a way where it's not quite so glaring. Because I'm not small. I'm 6 foot, but you tend to look small when you're next to Carmelo Anthony.
Well, when I was at CBSSports.com in Fort Lauderdale, the budget was a little smaller. You guys have at NBC. So I used to do shows with Brady Quinn, and I would literally stand on like a milk crate. It was honestly, dude. I'd rather not. It was more humiliating than having to stand next to him without being on the milk. I mean, you want to talk about emasculating? You stand on a milk crate. That'll get
milk
you going.
Crate
all right,
Nicky. I like it.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm actually now I'm sad I spoke this into the universe. We got a lot of stuff we got. We had like 15 minutes. I got a lot of stuff I wanna hit with you here. You have been all season long, and look, I have too, but it's different when it's you. You're a much better sports bettor than I am, right? You have been. I mean, I'm being serious, right? You have been Team Thunder all season long. They lose last night to San Antonio. I think Wemby's officially. That doesn't mean they'll win, but I think Wemby's the best player on the planet. He has this unbelievable game. Your concern level, 1 to 10, 10 being most, is what for Oklahoma City?
Yeah, well, I think the whole season, the way that it was going to go south for OKC is just the idea that maybe Wemby is already just in a tier by himself as the best player in the league. Maybe he is 2 points better than every other player. Maybe he is on a trajectory where if you guarantee health, he is, going to be better than Michael Jordan by the time it's all said and done, which I actually think is greater than a 50% chance if you guaranteed health with Wemby.
How about this? You guarantee health, it's a 100% chance.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that idea. I mean, the thing is...
Because Michael Jordan's wasn't 7'4", and you can't teach that. It's not even their fault. He's 7'4".
Yeah, that's the thing too, is that, you can kind of simplify it and it makes sense that he's just taller than he's just bigger than everyone else. Like, it's just kind of unfair. And I think that, I think OKC will clean stuff up. I think that San Antonio are going to have issues scoring this whole series. Stephon Castle had 11 turnovers. I don't think those issues are going to go away. OKC, the positive side for them would be that I think they played really poorly. I thought Shea played about as poorly as he could play, and Wemby needed to hit a 35-footer to get the Spurs the win. But yeah, I think this is now, pretty close to a coin flip series. I think there's a lot of interesting strategic elements. I think that the Thunder will change a lot of stuff. I don't know why Daigneault is lining up Shea's minutes exactly with Wemby when he's on the floor. I would be going hard in the opposite direction and try and line up Shea with the Cornet minutes as most as possible, because that is going to be where OKC is going to be able to score. I don't know. I'm not sure about putting Hartenstein in the bin already from game one and just deciding he can't play when Wemby is out there. Maybe that's right, because you just need shooting. But yeah, lots to figure out. But a ridiculous spectacle of a game one. And yeah, hopefully we have 6 more games of it.
All right, or for our sake, hopefully the Thunder win the next 4. Odds to win the series, yes, well, I mean, let's just be honest. To win the series, OKC is still a slight favorite, at least at BetMGM -115, Thunder -105, or Spurs -105. If you had no prior position, and I handed you $100, just a very nice round number, you have to bet the winner of the series right now. Spurs up 1-0. Who are you taking and why?
Yeah, I would still lean Thunder, but just ever so slightly. And I think that the prices are pretty fair at the moment. But I think ultimately what is going to shape the series is 2 things. One, just the Thunder being more experienced, having been on these playoff runs before. Wemby, in particular, never having to play this type of load. And I think there's a bit of variance with the Spurs. Just they are more likely, I think, to break down physically as the series unfolds, just because they haven't been under this stress before. And it'll be interesting to see in game 2 just what do Wemby and Harper and these guys have in the tank after what they had to do in game 1. And then just in terms of how that game unfolded last night, I just thought that there's more low-hanging fruit for the Thunder to pick up and to fix, because they tried to do their beautiful game offense, whizzing the ball around, and it just ended up with a lot of guys dribbling into Wemby's no-fly zone and then just freaking out and getting rattled. AJ Mitchell was just rattled last night. He was just dribble in, and then it's like, oh, Wemby's here. What do I do? I think that they can simplify their offense a lot more. I think that they can just get the spacing around Shea, because what is happening in this series is the Spurs are zoning up Wemby so that he can go off the weakest shooter, which is usually going to be Caruso, and just stay near the rim. But the Spurs are also sending extra bodies at Shea. And so what that means is that there were just going to be threes open for OKC. And I thought their offense actually looked okay in the first quarter, where it was just, all right, 2 on Shea, he kicks it out to Caruso. Caruso shoots an open 3 immediately. And the issue is that they had all these guys just dribbling and making decisions. It's like, no, just shoot the ball when you're open. If you're half open, just shoot the ball, Case and Wallace. Stop dribbling. Stop trying to find a perfect shot. You're not going to get a perfect shot when Wemby's on the floor. The team, I think, just needs to be a little bit more humble in their process and just take the open 3 when it's there, because that's reasonable half-court offense, and you'll get out in transition enough by forcing turnovers against San Antonio's offense. So I think there's things that they can clean up. I think ultimately they just have more depth, but yeah, this is going to be a war. I think if OKC had pulled out last night, then it would have been a 6-game type of series. Now I think it's just going to be 7 games, and it'll just be a maniacal game 7.
It's going to be excruciating and fun and awesome and excruciating. Eastern Conference Final begins tonight with my Knicks against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Knicks about a -250 favorite in the series, a 7.5-point favorite tonight in Game 1. How do you see Game 1? How do you see the series? Knicks and Cavs.
Yeah, so I would lean Cavs at price, even though I think the Knicks are the better team. I think the Knicks will ultimately win. I thought Game 7 for Cleveland, I thought Game 6s and 7 in sequence were the perfect embodiment of this Cavs team, where Game 7, when this team plays with force, and the reason they beat Detroit is mostly just because they played harder than Detroit in Game 7. And when Mobley and Allen are going to play with that level of force, and Mitchell is going to look like that, then this team is elite, because they have elite rim protection on the floor at all times, because you always have one of Mobley or Allen out there. You have elite creation because you have Mitchell and Harden. And then I think what they smartly did in Game 7 is they leaned into their shooting. All right, more Strus, more Merrill, less Dean Wade, less Jalen Tyson, less Dennis Schroeder. Just make everything easier and more spaced, and just rely on Mobley and Allen to clean stuff up at the rim. And they just played with a ton of force, just like Max Strus and even James Harden are barreling in for offensive rebounds. And when they play at that level, I think that they can absolutely beat the Knicks, because I think that the talent profiles of these teams are pretty similar. The issue is with the Cavs is that they just do a lot of dumb stuff. I think this is just a pretty dumb team. And the fact that they just no-showed Game 6, I thought was a mess. I don't trust Atkinson at all as a coach. I'm not sure Mike Brown is the most incredible coach in the world, but I think he's pretty high floor. And Atkinson, I just don't trust to make the right decisions. I don't trust this team to show up every night. I expect that they will just mail in random games and not play with the requisite force. And so I think the Knicks are just an extremely high floor team. This is a veteran team that has performed the sneaky thing about the Knicks is I think they've overperformed expectations every single year of the Brunson era, despite not making the finals. They've always acquitted themselves well in the playoffs. They execute their scheme. They play hard. And I think that floor ultimately is just going to be too much for this Cavs team that is very variable game to game.
A couple more minutes with our friend Jay Croucher, NBC sports betting analyst. You hear his voice doing the reads for the sports book, which will not be named on this show, but they are great reads. At Croucher JD on Twitter. You have a stake, to put it lightly, in Arsenal to win the English Premier League. So we are one match day left. If Arsenal win their final match, they win no matter what. Where are you at right now with the English Premier League, with Arsenal and Man City, with the added wrinkle for people that pay attention to this kind of thing? And look, I think this is the kind of story that even American sports fans who don't love soccer know about. Pep Guardiola, the legendary Manchester City, former Barcelona, Bayern Munich manager, will leave the club after this game. So this is his final game coming up with Manchester City.
Yeah, so, I mean, objectively, I know it doesn't really matter that this announcement this reporting has come out that Pep is going to leave, but subjectively, I don't like it. As an Arsenal man, I don't like that now there's potential magic swirling in the air that Guardiola is going to steal the Premier League as he exits England and ends this kind of Man City reign of dominance with one last magical title. I don't like that swirling around in the air at all. In terms of how this is going to play out, I think, look, Arsenal, they should beat Crystal Palace on the final day at Selhurst Park. Palace have the Conference League final 3 days later, though Oliver Glasner has said that Palace are going to play all their guys, which can the English media stop asking Oliver Glasner about whether he's going to rest players against Arsenal? Because I feel like he's now been pushed into this corner where he feels like he has to play everyone, despite it clearly being against the interests of his club. Because if they win
the biggest story. Of course they're going to ask him. It's the biggest thing.
No one's asking Unai Emery if he's going to rest guys against City on Saturday after, 4 days after they play the Europa League
City
final.
win every year. Arsenal haven't won in 20 years. Like, that's the way bigger story here.
It's very interesting that everyone hates Arsenal, that Arsenal have been painted as the bad guys, despite, the other team winning every single season.
Can I give you my opinion on this?
Of 150 crimes.
I have a different view on this, and you're more educated on this. Maybe I'm wrong. I think it's less that and more that Arsenal. I think it may be less that people hate Arsenal and more that Arsenal have kind of earned this reputation since they went invincible in 03-04 with Arsene Wenger and Thierry Henry of being like the losers, where they're going to come in second, and now they've made it to the finish line. If they win. They win, and I think all the pressure is on them, and they have become the story, and Manchester City's not the story because Man City always wins.
Yeah,
you think that's fair or unfair?
Yeah, I just think Man City's just inoffensive. Everyone is so accustomed to them winning that it doesn't create any new emotion if they win. People don't feel bad if Man City win because they win all the time. It's just so normal. Whereas Arsenal, who are the biggest club in the biggest city in the country and play a brand of football that people don't like because it's not the most aesthetically pleasing. There's a lot of stuff there for people to dislike about Arsenal, but it's been effective. And the reason why Arsenal is so dependent on these set pieces is because they face the lowest blocks defensively of any team in the Premier League. No one wants to play out against Arsenal because they are so good with their pressing and they have so much quality. And so I think that even though they could be a little bit more technically able and play a bit more aesthetically pleasing football, and they should have probably done that against Burnley instead of that being a monstrous, miserable sweat down the stretch yesterday. This is somewhat by necessity, but ultimately, as to what's going to happen, I think that it's still odds on that City drop points in one of these next two games. They're going to play at Bournemouth today, which is a brutal game to play 3 days after an FA Cup final, travelling south while Bournemouth have had like a 10-day rest and can, still get into the Champions League and clinch Europe with a win today or with a result today. So I think ultimately Arsenal, they will scrape across the line, but it does feel just kind of spiritually like City will win today and then Arsenal are going to be defending a 1-0 lead in stoppage time at Selhurst Park on Sunday.
Oh man, there's a win-1 for the Gipper today with Man City, right?
Yeah,
Pep's leaving.
I don't like anything. Yeah, there's steam coming in for City in the market as well now, which I don't enjoy.
How could there not be? Well, it's probably stupid steam, right? Like idiots like me are like, well, Pep's leaving, so they're going to win. Like that's the steam, right?
Yeah, we'll see. There's also, I want to see if Rodri's in the starting lineup. I think Bournemouth.
He's pretty important.
Bournemouth should be able to get a result today. They're just so much more rested. They play with such intensity.
And Arsenal win the Premier League so the result means that they don't lose. They either draw or win. If Man City has to win, otherwise Arsenal win the Premier League today, correct?
Exactly. And also City needs to beat Villa on the final Sunday as well. Villa, by the way, who will be coached by the man who was sacked for Arteta to come in at Arsenal, Unai Emery. So it's just storylines galore, Nick. And also my take on Arsenal is that if they win the Premier League, it will be, while the end result will be euphoric for their fans and the people who have bet on them, in terms of just hours of happiness experienced en route to final destination, lowest in the history of sport. This has been an absolutely miserable watch. They win every game 1-0. They've had one comfortable win in 3 months. It's been absolutely miserable.
And awaiting them in the Champions League final. I know you like Arsenal in that game. I mean, dude, if they beat if they double and win the Premier League and beat that'll be something. PSG's gonna kill. I don't know. What the hell do I know? We'll do World Cup maybe the next time we have. Jay's the best. At Croucher JD, the dulcet tones that you hear on NBC Sports betting analyst. Good luck. Come on, you Gunners. We'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate it, Nick. Good luck to you, Knicks.
Our friend, I don't know if he means that or not. I think he bet the Cavs. Jay Croucher with us here on You Better You Bet. We'll take a break. We'll give you the Knicks fan perspective of the Western Conference Final coming up next to wrap up hour number 2 right after this.
presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
The conference finals are here with two great matchups. Be part of the playoff action when you bet with boosted odds. Activate your odds boost token for any bet on the NBA playoffs, and you'll receive a bigger payout if your bet wins. Get ready for tip-off with BetMGM. Download the BetMGM app today. Got a quick wrestling note for you. We'll save the Knicks stuff for next hour. Actually, I have a soccer thought for you next hour. Maybe a little Sabres Canadiens next hour. Pro sports bettor Rob Bizzola will join us, by the way, to start the hour. WrestleMania Night 2. I told everybody right after the match happened, and it was on ESPN. It was one of the free matches on ESPN. Brock Lesnar puts over Obafemi in incredible fashion. Everybody knows who Brock Lesnar is, right? The former UFC champion, like long time in WWE. Brock Lesnar does the storyline bit where he takes off his gloves and his boots and lays them down in the ring, which is always like what you do in wrestling when you're going to retire. And everybody bought it hook, line, and sinker. Except, I thought at least, it was supremely obvious that he was not actually retiring. Because knowing what you know about Brock Lesnar, and I mean this as a compliment, I would be the same way, he's not going to leave money on the table. There's way too much money to be made. A rematch with Obafemi. A SummerSlam match where I think that will be his final match coming up in Minneapolis this summer in his hometown. That's where SummerSlam is. And I still think it'll be Lesnar against Gunther in a retirement match, and I think Brock will win the match, and that's how I think he's going to go out. So to everybody out there that got worked by Brock Lesnar's fake retirement at WrestleMania, it's not really a bad thing because it's cool to get worked because you get surprised when something like last night happens and he comes back. But I mean, come on. I tried to tell you. It's pro wrestling. Scripted. Always follow the money. Always ask yourself, is there money to be made? And go from there. Final hour, power hour coming up on the other side. The Knicks fan perspective of the Western Conference Final Game 1. Preview of Eastern Conference Final Game 1, Knicks and Cavs. We need to talk about Jose Mourinho and Real Madrid for about 30 seconds as well, but we will start the hour. Pro sports bettor Rob Bizzola on the Stanley Cup Conference Finals and Week 1 in the NFL. Next, here at Westwood One Sports on this Tuesday.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos and the crew. Presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
Kenny. Final hour. Power hour. You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports. Nick Kostos. Our amazing crew. Rob Pizzola. And you. The Power Hour and every hour here on You Better You Bet, brought to you by BetMGM. Make it legendary by downloading the BetMGM app and visiting BetMGM.com. Coming up in about 20 minutes, why me, Knicks fan, Nick Kostos, watching Game 1 of the Western Conference Final, felt like I was watching a horror movie with Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Our bets for tonight will close the show as per usual. But joining us right now, Jay Croucher on to close the hour. Love our friend Jay Croucher. How about another pro sports bettor? Good friend of the show, Rob Pizzola of The Hammer, Circles Off, Circle Back, Bet Stamp on Twitter at Rob Pizzola. With us now to talk a little Stanley Cup playoffs and, of course, the National Football League. My friends, welcome back to the show. How you doing?
I am doing great, man. Great night last night. Game 7 overtime in the NHL. Game 1 overtime, double overtime, and the NBA. Just like, I mean, we're really lucky to have sports in our lives, Nick.
We are. And to punch home a point that you and I were talking about off air, it will be nice, though, to have not a lot going on for a little bit before football starts, obviously. Need a little bit of a respite. I think all of us do, right?
Yeah, I mean, last year the Jays went on a run in the summer, so I was like, I'm burnt out from last year. Not to say I don't want the Jays to go on some sort of run again this summer, but 2 or 3 months here to golf, enjoy the summer before we get back into the NFL. But yeah, the schedule release this past week, like as soon as that happens, you already start diving in. I'm looking at I'm even looking at week 2. And I'm like, who might get upset in week 1 where I'm going to find value in week 2. I have a real sickness when it comes to this stuff, but it's great, man. I really enjoy it.
I hate to phrase this the way I'm about to phrase it. Let's clear the National Hockey League so we could spend more time talking about the National Football League. So Rob, obviously, is a huge NHL fan, big NHL bettor, so fascinated to get your thoughts on the conference finals. Montreal, Carolina in the East, Colorado, Vegas in the West. Let's start in the East where, I said this to Liam McHugh from Turner earlier in the show, the Carolina Hurricanes kind of remind me, Rob, of hockey's version of the Buffalo Bills in the Josh Allen era. They're there every year, towards the end every year, but can't get over the hump. Now, you were right when you said Carolina was going to stomp Philadelphia. I was wrong on that one. I'm going back to the well, fading Carolina. I'll take the Canadiens here. What say you, Eastern Conference Final?
Honestly, so we have like an unusual situation here because Carolina's been off for so long. And historically, teams that have these long layoffs tend to not perform well in the first game back. But Carolina had that layoff against Philadelphia, and they beat them down in game 1 as well. So I don't really know what's going to happen early on in this series. I do think that Carolina is going to roll Montreal as well. I think the one thing with the Habs, I know that they got over the hump with Tampa Bay in round 1. They played a horrible Game 7. They end up winning. But Montreal against playoff caliber opponents this year, and that's one thing I really look at in the playoffs, they were not good. They had a 47.5% expected goals against playoff caliber opponents. So far in the postseason, just under 49% expected goals. It's not like they are like deserving winners of the first 2 series. I'm not saying they didn't win. They did. But Carolina's done it in much more dominant fashion. They had a much better regular season. They're not beat up as a team. They haven't had to go through back-to-back 7-game series. So I like Carolina in this series. Obviously, the market has them priced as prohibitive favorites here as well. I'm somewhere in the range of like minus 190 being my fair price on the Hurricanes, but I think the run is going to end for Montreal here.
All right, so 2-part question, and we turn our attention to the Western Conference. 1, who do you like? Colorado's the favorite over Vegas, obviously. And 2, Is this actually the Stanley Cup final? Winner of this series wins the Stanley Cup, whether it's the Avs or the Knights.
I don't agree with that. I would like Carolina in a series against Vegas if that should happen in the finals. I think, again, this is another series where it's priced the exact same way as in the East. I like Colorado quite a bit. Colorado's way too fast for Vegas. And Anaheim showed a lot of that speed against Vegas, but ultimately Anaheim just didn't have the back end to be able to prevent good scoring chances. Colorado does. Their defense is much more sound all around. So I think this is going to look like Vegas, who is a very slow, older team, against Colorado, really fast, ripping it around the ice. The Avs are just a powerhouse, Nick. They really are. Unless they get really, really poor goaltending in this series, I think they're going to have their way with Vegas, and they're going to look like a much better team. So I wouldn't be surprised if both these series end early, something in like 5 games. But it should Vegas somehow upset, which can happen. It's the NHL. Stuff like that does happen. I would like Carolina in the finals over Vegas.
Any other NHL betting thoughts for the postseason, whether it's Conn Smythe, anything else that you like here that you can share with our listeners and viewers?
Yeah, so I was going to give you some Conn Smythe stuff. So I like Colorado-Carolina as our Stanley Cup final matchup. If Colorado gets there, Nathan MacKinnon is very likely going to win the Conn Smythe. It's priced that way right now, but there's no one down that depth chart that's really going to gain ground on MacKinnon, because the guys that could, like Martin Necas, they play with MacKinnon regularly. So every time they score a goal, McKinnon's probably going to get an assist. Cale Makar's too far out of it. So I would shift to looking towards Carolina. And Carolina right now, Freddie Anderson is priced really high. Taylor Hall, Logan Stankoven, those guys are priced pretty high. But things shift on a dime in the NHL playoffs. The best forward for Carolina is Sebastian Aho. He's got 3 goals, only 4 points in 8 games. All it takes is one good series. All of a sudden, he will vault himself up to being like 5-1 to win the Conn Smythe. He's getting by far the most minutes on the team, so he has the most opportunity. And most importantly, he's not playing with the guys that he's chasing in terms of Conn Smythe. So if you look down the list, you can find guys like Sebastian Aho, Seth Jarvis. They're in like the 70-1 range. Little sprinkle on those. I think those are valuable bets.
All right, so that's the National Hockey League. Rob gave us thoughts on the East, gave us thoughts on the West, and gave us some thoughts on a Conn Smythe. Let's talk some National Football League. Start with this. The Pizzola Kostos Bowl, Week 1 Sunday Night Football in the Jersey Meadowlands. Now, I love your... I think the Cowboys are going to be really good. I actually think... So I'm marinating on this. I think we're going to get a throwback to the early 90s Championship Sunday in the NFC. Cowboys-Niners. I think we could get that. I like Dallas a lot in Week 1. Like, Scatterbo might not be healthy. I don't know. His neighbor's going to be healthy going into that game. I like your Cowboys a lot. Let's start there, and then we can talk about some other games and teams in the NFL.
Okay, let's start there. I agree with your sentiment on the 49ers, as I do every year. I love the 49ers. I think like injuries have really hurt them, but they could make a deep run in the NFC. I got the Cowboys logo behind me here. I am pessimistic about the Cowboys again this year, and especially in Week 1. Now, will I bet this game? Probably not, just because it's going to be hard to find a valuable bet unless you can get Giants 3, which is kind of out of market right now across the board. But I really think, Nick, people are just expecting the Cowboys to take this leap on defense, and I'm not sure it's going to happen. Like, we're going on a couple years now where they can't generate pressure through a pass rush. It's hurt them in the secondary. And granted, they draft Malachi Lawrence. They have Downs there now. But what kind of impact are these guys going to make in the rookie year? I still think the pass rush is a real problem for the Dallas defense. So where I worry and have concerns is that people are expecting this leap for Dallas's defense. Oh, they might be average this year. They might be above average. I want to see it before I bet it. So it's funny that you like the Cowboys. I like the Giants. But that's where I'm at in Week 1. I would only bet the Giants in that game.
What stands out to you Week 1? And I'll offer this caveat. Like, if Rob says, unless he tells you, which I doubt he's going to tell you, that he's bet a game already. We're 4 months out. This is more for like us having conversations, create a roadmap for what we're going to do this summer potentially. This is not Rob likes something, even though we really respect him, go bet it. This is like where we're at right now, very early in the process. Or is there a game or games in Week 1 that stand out to you in the National Football League?
There's one game that I'm eyeing, and I think the Broncos are going to return back to earth this year. I think people expect them to take another leap. They were, a game away. If Bo Nix didn't get hurt and it wasn't Jarrett Stidham, they might have been in the Super Bowl. Well, I have a lot of problems with the Broncos. They had a historically lucky year, right? When I'm betting on sports, I want to strip out luck as much as possible and get to like the underlying data with each team. And to me, first and foremost, the defense carried a lot of the Broncos last year. I don't think the defense is that good, and it's not sticky year over year. So Denver plays Kansas City in week 1. There's going to be a lot of moving parts there. There's going to be Bo Nix, Patrick Mahomes coming back. Is he going to be ready for week 1? All of that. I'm not saying go and bet this early here, because you might get a situation where Mahomes doesn't play week 1, and then this line completely flips, and you're sitting on -2.5, -115, terrible bet. But in some capacity, I am very likely going to be on the Chiefs in this particular game, because I'm not a believer in the Broncos this year. And on top of that, I think KC's finally found a running game. Andy Reid, I think he's kind of washed as a head coach. He does want to run the ball. And we saw this in the past with like Pacheco and Hunt, these like 2-yard carries on first down all the time. This year might be the year where they can actually get out ahead of the sticks. So KC week 1 is the one that stands out to me, Nick.
Do you want to talk about some other week 1 games? Do you have thoughts on, because there's so many different directions we can take this. I'd love to ask you about every game and get an opinion here. Do you have more overarching thoughts, more strong thoughts on week 1? Because I can hit you with some individual games if you'd like.
Hit me with some individual games, but I do have a lot of thoughts on week 1. A lot of leans here right now.
All right, so yeah, hashtag lean. So here's what we'll do. I will inject some opinion into these, and we can have overarching conversations as well. So Bills-Texans, I think, is a fascinating week 1 game, right? So Buffalo is a really small road favorite, about a 1-point road favorite at BetMGM. So I have kind of, I guess probably is stupid what I'm about to say here. I might like Buffalo to win the AFC now that they've made the move at head coach going on. It's moving on from Sean McDermott. I love the Texans in this game. They've been Josh Allen's kryptonite defensively. And you mentioned it, and you're right? Which is defense is less sticky year over year than offense. But I look at this Texans team, and I love the Caden McDonald pick in the second round. And I love Rutledge, the offensive lineman, in the first round. And if CJ Stroud can just be 3/4 of what he was in his rookie year, I think they can go to the Super Bowl. I like them to win that division. I gave you a lot there. Texans-Bills, a fascinating week 1 game. Give us your thoughts.
Completely agree with you. I mean, even if you're handicapping the NFL just based off power ratings and then adding in a home field advantage for a team, I don't really know how you're going to get to Buffalo -1.5. I kind of feel like this game's going to close a pick'em in some capacity, or maybe even Texans favored. I'm going to pump the brakes a little bit on Texans Super Bowl, because DeMeco Ryans is going to be the limiting factor for them. They're just way too conservative when it comes down to it in the playoffs. They punt the ball too much. They'll make those type of in-game mistakes as a head coach. But totally with you on this particular game. And also, exactly like you pointed out, Nick, Josh Allen hasn't played well against the Texans. Defense isn't sticky year over year, but this is a really good defense, personnel-wise, with a very good defensive head coach. If there's one team that I think is going to replicate being a great defense, it's probably Houston. So I'm with you. I probably will be on the Texans in week 1.
Super Bowl rematch to kick off the season, which I think I got a laugh out of people saying, well, the NFL will never do this. Put Mike Vrabel in the first game. Really? The capitalist entity that's intent on making as much money and getting as much eyeballs as possible won't put Mike Vrabel in the first game. Seattle is a 4.5-point favorite, which is the same spread as the Super Bowl. It's in Seattle. Also, the Patriots are going to have A.J. Brown in this game in all likelihood. Any early thoughts on the season opener with Seattle and New England?
I think this one's lined pretty accurately. I'll make I think both these teams are a little bit overrated going into the year. I don't think Seattle's going to have necessarily the run that they had last year. New England, there was certainly some luck involved with how deep that they went as well. I know a lot of people, you look at the schedule release, New England got banged pretty hard in the schedule release, especially early on in the year. There's still people who are a believer in them. One point on New England is don't bet New England futures before the season starts. You might as well wait till a month into the season, because you're almost certainly going to get a better price at that point. But it kind of sucks. I want to have action on so many games in week 1, but I think this one's pretty accurately priced. And I New England in that Super Bowl, man, the offensive line, they just did not hold up against this front. They're going to have to figure that out in the first week of the season.
Couple more minutes with our friend Pro Sports Bettor Rob Pizzola on Twitter at Rob Pizzola. So this can be a game conversation, or it can be more of an overarching conversation. So I'm guessing, based on what you just said, if you think Seattle's a little overrated, that Seattle won't be your pick to repeat as NFC West champions. The Niners are playing the Rams in Melbourne, Australia, opening week of the season. The Rams are close to being a full 3-point favorite. I like San Francisco to win that division this year. Do you have a thought on that game, and do you have a favorite team right now in the NFC West?
So I like San Fran relative to market as well. So I'm with you on this one. In this particular game, probably a little bit of a lean towards the 49ers. The Rams are still a very complete team. And listen, McVay he's had some hiccups in the playoffs over the last few years and this and that, but he's still really, really good at scheming offense. I just think the 49ers defense is going to be really improved this year. I think that's a sneaky under the radar type of defense. Last year, remember how many injuries that they had over the course of the season? Robert Saleh basically said, you know what? We're just playing too high. We're not blitzing. You take what you want, and we'll try to hold up in the red zone. They can be a little bit more active on defense this year. So I like that plus 115 attached to the 49ers in this game. Two really quality teams in the NFC. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the NFC title game this year. But I like the 49ers in this matchup.
There's so many different games I could hit you with. A lean that I have that I've done a little bit on the show maybe. If the Steelers are going to be 3 at home against the Falcons in week 1, and my guess is Tua is going to start for Atlanta at least to begin the year, I'm going to like the Falcons. Crazy? Pittsburgh, Atlanta week 1?
I don't think so. I don't like either of these teams going into the year, but I probably like Pittsburgh less. Their defense used to be able to keep them in games regularly, and that's kind of fallen off in recent years. They just don't generate the same pass rush that they used to. The Falcons are a weird one because I kind of really like their roster on paper, but quarterback is just not there for them right now. But in this particular matchup, I mean, Steelers are throwing out Aaron Rodgers and his ADOT of 1 yard basically at this point. So Falcons are nothing. I mean, there's no chance I'd want to lay this price with the Steelers.
I have a wacky thought, and I'm not there yet. This is half-baked, less than half-baked. The cake's been in the oven for 15 minutes. Can the Browns beat the Jaguars in week 1 if Deshaun Watson starts?
They can, because it's the NFL, and I've seen everything happen in the NFL. But Deshaun Watson has to be, there's 99% chance he is completely cooked. And they just have to try to play him because they traded so much. The Browns roster is solid. It's another team.
That's what I'm saying.
Listen, it could never say never. If I see any hint out of Deshaun Watson being average in week 1 against the Jags, I will hit Browns futures so quickly. That is a necessity. But do I want to bet them without having seen anything in the early going? No. Tough one for me. Yeah, I'm just not there on the quarterback play for Cleveland.
Let's see if we could hit maybe 1 or 2 more here. This can be more of a general question attached to a week 1 game. So Vikings, Packers, and Minnesota, obviously fascinating, right? We're expecting Kyler Murray to be the Vikings quarterback. Green Bay's about a 1-point road favorite at BetMGM. The Bears coming off last year. The Lions looking for a bounce back. Detroit's a touchdown favorite at home against the Saints. The Bears are 2.5-point road favorites at the Panthers. Your thoughts on the NFC North in totality, and do you have a betting thought on any of those games in week 1?
Yes, I think this is a really interesting division. So I think Detroit and Minnesota are undervalued, and Green Bay and Chicago are overvalued going into the year. I think Detroit is especially really undervalued. Maybe not week 1 against the Saints in particular, but I like their season win total over. The last 2 seasons, they have been extremely decimated on defense. Some of the worst runs in terms of adjusted man games lost due to injury. Just having a fully healthy defense to start the year completely changes things for Detroit, even if the O-line is not the same. Minnesota, they got such bad quarterback play last year. And I'm not a Kyler Murray guy, but he kind of fits what Kevin O'Connell wants to do. Get the quarterback out of the pocket, get him moving. I could see that being a really good fit for them. In week 1, certainly think they're a decent bet against Green Bay, especially with the risk of Micah Parsons not being back for that game or being limited in that game as well, which really hurt the Green Bay defense last year. And then on the Bears side, they might be able to overcome all the luck from last year because Ben Johnson just might be that guy. He is that good of a head coach, but they should have lost a lot of games that they won last season. And we just simply can't ignore that going into the year. So if we're talking about the NFC North as a whole, Detroit, I think is probably the best value bet on the entire board in the NFL to win the Super Bowl this year. And in week 1, I'd be looking to fade the Bears with the Panthers, and I'd be looking to fade the Packers with the Vikings.
I think I like Carolina to win the NFC South again this year. So I'm with you there. I think I'm going to pick the Panthers to beat the Bears outright in week 1. Maybe one more here. Do you trust this new look Cincinnati Bengals defense enough to lay 3.5 at home against Baker Mayfield, Emeka Egbuka, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
I don't, and that total is low 50s right now, and I probably will still bet it's tough to bet. We'll see if Joe Burrow plays any preseason, right? That's going to be a big telling factor this year as well. Obviously, he's gotten hurt in the preseason in the past before, he's been dealing with injuries pretty much his entire career early on in the season. If he logs some preseason reps this year, I do not respect the Tampa Bay defense whatsoever. I think they're going to be a bad defense and a bad football team overall. But I do think that their offense, when they're trailing and it becomes these types of shootout games, they will push the ball downfield. High total, I don't love betting high totals over in week 1, but if we get preseason snaps from Burrow and Baker, I like this over a lot, Nick.
You have been very generous with your time today. I could ask you about every game. I don't want to keep you another 10 minutes, which we'd have to do. So I'll close with this. Anything else that you like, and this can be a game in week 1. This could be something you like for the upcoming NFL season. Again, with the caveat, we're 4 months out. Anything else you like, I would love for you to share with us.
Yeah, so another total I'm kind of hoping that will go up slightly is Cardinals-Chargers. It's sitting 46.5 right now. 47 is an immediate buy to the under for me. I'm a big fan of the Chargers this year. Really tough schedule, and McDaniel's coming over there. But you have two teams that are completely changing their identity on offense. I think there's going to be some growing pains in the early going for both of these teams offensively before they figure it out. And Arizona defensively last year had so many injuries down the stretch as well. I think they might be a little bit, they stink, and they're going to struggle to win games, but their defense will be a lot better, I think, than people will give them credit for. So Chargers, Cardinals, I'm looking towards an under in that game, and just hoping, fingers crossed, we get a 47 there.
Chargers 10.5-point favorites in that game at BetMGM over Arizona and Jeremiah Love in week 1. Man, we didn't even get the Eagles, Commanders. The Raiders are somehow 3.5-point favorites in week 1 thanks to the Miami Dolphins. The Salah Bowl with the Titans and the Jets in Tennessee. Ravens at Colts. The Baltimore Showdown. A lot of good stuff week 1 in the NFL. Rob, you're the best. Appreciate the time. On Twitter at Rob Pizzola. Everybody check out The Hammer, which is an awesome sports betting content network featuring many friends of the show, including our buddy Joey Kanish. Circles Off is the educational podcast, courtesy of our friend Rob Pizzola. Tons of great content at The Hammer. Stay well, my friends, and we'll catch up down the line.
All right, thanks, Nick. Have a good one.
Yeah, we'll have to have Rob on before the World Cup. Rob, a big soccer guy, even though... What happened to Italy? Now, Rob's last name ends in a vowel. Mine ends in a consonant. I'm Greek and Italian. What happened to Italy? No World Cup again. What a disgrace. A disgrace, I believe, as my in-laws would say. Take a break. On the other side, Knicks Cavs. The Knicks fan take on Game 1 of the Western Conference Final. And Jose Mourinho back at Real Madrid here on a Tuesday.
You know, it might be a long series. Winning one game means something, but doesn't mean everything, you know. So we got to stay down to earth. And if it's a long series, we don't need this wins.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports.
Victor Wembanyama. You even did say anything else? I mean, yes, because this is a solo radio show, so I actually have to keep talking. 24 rebounds, 3 blocks, and a steal last night. How could he not be? He's the defensive player of the year in the NBA, but more importantly, he is You Better You Bet's, Victor Wembanyama, is You Better You Bet's Defensive Player of the Week, which is sponsored by Navy Federal Credit Union, proudly serving all branches of the armed services, veterans, and their families. Learn more at NavyFederal.org. Our members are the mission. Again, NavyFederal.org. So game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final tonight with the Knicks and the Cavaliers. And I'll give you my bets at the end of the show. I like the Knicks. And I'll tell you what, the Knicks better come out and win tonight. I'm expecting the Knicks to win, and I'm expecting the Knicks to win in pretty impressive fashion tonight. And let's say that happens. And let's say the Knicks win the Eastern Conference. I think they're going to. I believe that. I think the Knicks are going to beat the Cavaliers. Knicks in 6. Hashtag Knicks in 6. Knicks win the Eastern Conference. Knicks will go to the NBA Finals for the first time since 1999. And when they get there, I am very concerned that the boogeyman's waiting around the corner. And the boogeyman could be in blue, or the boogeyman could be in black. Either the Thunder or the Spurs. Now, I put a video out last night on social media at the Kostos, TheKostos, on both my Instagram and Twitter, basically saying that I think the Knicks might be screwed. Not that they're definitely going to lose, and they have to beat Cleveland first, right? But if they do beat the Cavs. And also, you can say this if you're a Cavs fan. So I'm a Knicks fan, so I view it through that prism. But look, if you're a Cleveland Cavaliers fan, I think, how do you not have the same thought? Like, let's say you think, whether you're a Cavs fan or not, you think Cleveland's going to beat the Knicks. A perfectly reasonable thought to have, even if I don't agree. What happens when one of these teams, my Knicks or your Cavs, gets to the NBA Finals? I don't know if you're being honest and realistic. I don't know how you watched that game last night, which I know you did because you love sports. How do you watch that game last night and walk away from it thinking either the Knicks or Cavs can beat either one of these teams in a 7-game series? Now, I do the Enzo Amore bit, 7 feet tall, and you can't teach that, right? There's another bit from Enzo and Big Cass, the tag team, right? Which is you are SAWFT, soft. And I'm being called soft by a lot of Knicks fans who are mad at me for my take. You're not a real fan. How can you be this pessimistic? Look, I do a 3-hour show. I'm giving my opinions. I talk about what I think is interesting. I think if you're being really honest, if you're a Knicks fan or a Cavs fan, and you watched that game last night, how are you not concerned about having to potentially play Wemby? And yes, I know the Knicks had regular season success against San Antonio. I know the Knicks railroaded the Spurs in the NBA Cup final. I'm not saying they're unbeatable, but Wemby's a different player now than he was in December. He's a different player now than he was Game 6 against Minnesota. Like that, did that not feel like LeBron in 2007 last night? I'm serious. And I still think the Thunder are the best team. I was happy that Jay Croucher agreed with me that he still likes the Thunder. I would very much like the Thunder to beat the Spurs. So if and when we get there, and it's the Knicks, or like when we get there and it's the Knicks or the Cavs against the winner of the Spurs Thunder, the Eastern Conference team's the underdog. There's no question about it. And I'm worried. That game last night, and this isn't fair to say because Knicks-Cavs is way better than Patriots-Broncos was in the AFC Championship game this year. That's not the same thing. But Spurs-Thunder does have a Rams-Seahawks vibe to it, does it not? Like, be honest. Did it not have that vibe to it? Where last night you were watching the two best teams. It doesn't mean you can't be an optimistic fan of either New York or Cleveland. Of course you can be. And anything can happen in sports. My point, though, how do you watch that game and you walk away from it thinking, yeah, we got this in the bag? I think if you're being honest, you don't think that. All right, hodgepodge of topics we need to hit before we close the show with all our bets for tonight. A couple thoughts in the National Football League. So we ended up doing 3 really awesome interviews that went long, so we'll try and fit in a couple things here. So started the show by saying, I'm going to tell everybody that because I gazed into the crystal ball, the team that will be the worst team in the NFL this season, and it's actually not the Miami Dolphins. Now, the reason why I'm saying this partially is because the Dolphins play in an easier division. Like the Dolphins get the Jets twice this year, even if I think the Jets are going to be a lot better than a lot of people think. I don't think the Dolphins will have the worst record in the league this year. And Miami, at least, is a little interesting because they're going to run what I believe is going to be a pretty funky offense with Malik Willis and Devon Achane in the backfield and no receivers. Like, I actually am very excited to see what the offense looks like. I doubt this is going to be your standard NFL offense with the personnel they have. The worst team in the NFL this year is going to be the Arizona Cardinals. The reason why I bring this up, not just out of nowhere, there's a headline on all the sports websites right now, and if you follow you're on social media, you will see it. The headline is, Jacoby Brissett holding out from Cardinals OTAs. Just consider that sentence for a moment. Jacoby Brissett, who went 1-11 as didn't play terribly, but went 1-11 as the starter last year. He's holding out for more money. The crazier sentence might be, he's going to get it. Jacoby Brissett is guaranteed this year a little over $1 million, which, like, for people like me and you, is like you push women and children out of the way to get it. But Jacoby Brissett is sitting there in the locker room looking across at Gardner Minshew, who is making $5 million guaranteed. And, like, say what you want about Jacoby Brissett. Is he someone who should be starting 17 games in a season for a team? No. But is he better than Gardner Minshew? Of course he is. And at least to begin the year, and we'll see if, like, when and if Arizona just goes with Carson Beck to see what they've got, which won't go well, and then Arizona can be in position to draft its actual quarterback of the future next year. Jacoby Brissett's going to begin the year as the starter, and there are reports that the Cardinals have told him that he is the starting quarterback to begin the year, and Minshew will be the backup, and Beck will be the 3, and eventually, like, what would you set the betting market is that Carson Beck starts at least one game this year for Arizona? Minus 500? It's going to happen. The fact that Jacoby Brissett's holding out, and the fact that he's going to get paid, is a stinging indictment against the team's ability to compete this season. And then you consider that the Arizona Cardinals share a division with 3 actual legitimate Super Bowl contenders. And look, like, let's say you dropped Arizona. Let's say you traded Arizona with Minnesota, right? And Arizona goes to the NFC North, which geographically would not happen, but just hear me out. Okay, you've got Detroit, you've got Green Bay, and you've got Chicago. You can argue successfully that all 3 of those teams are legitimate Super Bowl contenders, and I acknowledge that. But not in the same way the 3 teams in the NFC West are. And you understand the difference. The Cardinals they're not going to win one division game this year. That's 6 losses right there. When Jacoby Brissett eventually runs out of steam, or, they're the 1-8, here's Carson Beck. Like, how do you think that's going to go behind this offensive line? They're going to be terrible, almost by design. The one thing that I'll ask the football gods for, I'm not arrogant enough. I don't have enough hubris. I'm not brazen enough to ask the football gods for a great Marvin Harrison Jr. season. I don't know if that's ever going to happen. I think Michael Wilson's going to be really good. MHJ, I'm not so sure. I don't have the hubris. I'm not brazen enough to ask for that. But what I will ask for, I will beg and plead and implore the football gods to please, 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 please don't let what happened to Ashton Genty last year happen to Jeremiah Love this year. I don't think the Cardinals will be good, but I would love to watch Jeremiah Love be good, both for real life and for fantasy football. That is the one thing I ask for the Arizona Cardinals. Even if they're going to be bad, can Jeremiah Love please, please be good? You better you bet on this Tuesday. Nick Kostos and you here on Westwood One Sports. A couple other notes to hit. How about the New York Mets? Making history that we haven't seen in Major League Baseball in 107 years, literally. So last night, the Mets go into extra innings against the Washington Nationals and score 10 runs in the 10th inning, which is the first time since the Cincinnati Reds in 1919 that a team scored double-digit runs in half inning of an extra inning. Amazing stuff from the Metropolitans, who ended up winning the game last night. And the Mets are now streaking a little bit. They obviously took 2 or 3 from the Yankees this weekend in really impressive fashion. I hated it as a Yankee fan, but look, like, it happened. The Mets have won 3 straight. They've won 7 of their last 10. They're now only 5 games under 500. Now, they're not going to win the NL East. They're 10.5 games back, obviously, of the Atlanta Braves. But they're only 6.5 games out of the final wild card spot. Now, you might think it's silly. We're talking about this before Memorial Day. But just to say, like, for as bad as it's been to start the year for the Mets, and Clay Holmes is going to be out for an extended period of time, there was no way they were going to be this bad all season. There's too many good players on the team, even if we acknowledge that the roster construction by David Stearns is flawed, which we have. They're too good. You know, we had Tom Verducci on the show a little over 2 weeks ago, 15 days ago to be exact, 2 weeks from yesterday. And I asked him at the time about the Mets, the Phillies, and the Red Sox and the Astros. And the Phillies have long since rebounded in a big way, right, under Don Mattingly, over 500 now. But Verducci singled out the Mets in his answer, saying, this team's too good to play like this. I am not saying the Mets will make the playoffs. I don't think they will. We have never seen a team in the history of Major League Baseball have a losing streak of 12 games or more in a regular season and make the playoffs. I don't think the Mets will buck history in that regard. But the suggestion that they're going to lose like 100 games is ludicrous. I think they're way closer to like an 82-win team than they are like a 65-win team. And the application of that is probably in the game-by-game betting market. Last note, and we'll take a break. We'll close the show with trivia and with bets. For the American sports fan who's not a big soccer guy, I'm going to make an analogy here that will make you understand this, I believe. So Real Madrid is one of the best-known teams in soccer, right? And I think we've reached a point now in 2026 where even if you don't like soccer, you know what the big teams are in world soccer. Real Madrid is one of the biggest teams in the world, obviously play in La Liga, the Spanish league, headline that league along with Barcelona, and to a lesser extent, Atletico Madrid. So Jose Mourinho is a legendary Portuguese soccer manager. He won a Champions League very early in his career at Porto. He won one at Inter Milan. He starred at Chelsea in the 2000s as the Chelsea manager, goes to Real Madrid. Doesn't win a Champions League, but wins a La Liga. And from there, his career kind of hits the skids a little bit. Now, he is a lightning rod with the media. So he's always entertaining, and he's always going to be front and center because he's so entertaining as a personality. Leaves Real Madrid. Has another spell at Chelsea that goes well. Okay, great. Goes to Manchester United. Underwhelming. Gets sacked. Goes to Tottenham Hotspur. Underwhelming. Gets sacked. Goes to AS Roma in Serie A. Underwhelming. Gets sacked by Fenerbahce in the Turkish league. Goes to Benfica in the Portuguese league. They go invincible this year. They don't lose a game, but they don't win the league because they drew so many times, and his old club, Porto, ends up winning the league. It was announced yesterday that Real Madrid have reached terms to bring Jose Mourinho back to the Bernabeu to manage Real Madrid next season. This is the equivalent, the coaching equivalent, of the Patriots coming back in Super Bowl 51 against the Falcons. This guy's career, dead and buried as far as a club like Real Madrid goes. Failed at United, failed at Tottenham, failed at Roma, failed at Fenerbahce, failed to a degree at Benfica. And now he's going to coach Real Madrid. This is one of the great comebacks in coaching or manager in any sport we've ever seen. And it's going to be entertaining, and I can't wait for it next year. Jose Mourinho back at Real Madrid. Our executive producer is Bill Zimmerman, and Bill has a trivia question of the day today. Bill, what do we got?
All right, Nick. Well, last night we saw Victor Wembanyama drop 41 points in a playoff game at age 22. But that feat has been bested many times by young players. So, Nick, today's question is, in the last 50 years, 5 players have scored 50 or more points in a playoff game under the age of 25. Can you name those 5 players? And I will give you a hint. 4 of them happened this century.
All right, we'll answer this question on the other side and close the show with our bets right after this.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports.
The conference finals are here with two great matchups. Be part of the playoff action when you bet with boosted odds. Activate your odds boost token for any bet on the NBA playoffs, and you'll receive a bigger payout if your bet wins. Get ready for tip-off with BetMGM. Download the BetMGM app today. Thanks to Bill Zimmerman, thanks to Tyler Morales, Kenny Henderson back in the saddle, Dan Turner, and Downtown Mike Brown. Our guests, Rob Pizzola, Jay Croucher, Liam McHugh. Bill Zimmerman's trivia question. 5 players 25 or younger to score 50 points or more in a playoff game? That was the question, correct?
Correct, in the last 50 years.
In the last 50 years, okay. So
I want you to
one
get Bob Cousy in 1962.
So Jordan is obviously one of the answers.
Jordan,
answered some
63 points against the Celtics, yep.
Okay, so Dan brought up, and I think he did it multiple times. Donovan Mitchell is definitely an answer with the Jazz. I think in the bubble, right? It happened?
Donovan Mitchell did it twice. That is correct.
Dan wants to go with, and I think he's right, with Allen Iverson.
Allen Iverson is incorrect. Did not do it under the age of 25.
Okay. My guess was I was going to say Tatum.
Tatum is correct. He did it at 23.
So there's 2 more.
2 more.
Is Jamal Murray one?
Jamal Murray did it twice in the same series at 23. Scored 50 twice.
Was it against Utah and Mitchell or no?
Yeah, against Utah. Yes.
So there's one more?
There is one more.
Can we get a hint?
Closer, much closer to the 90s against Dan Turner's Philadelphia 76ers.
Closer to the 90s against Dan Turner's Philadelphia 76ers. Is it Kobe?
And you actually said the name in the break when you were going through teams.
Is it an Eastern Conference team?
It is an Eastern Conference team.
Oh, man. Rose?
It is not Derrick Rose.
Oh, man. We're running out of time here. Who is it?
McGrady? Tyler Morales has it in the chat. Vince Carter.
Vince Carter. Okay. Damn it.
In 2001.
It's a great question. Bill does a great job with these questions. All right, let's drop the dope-ass beat. We'll race through the bets. I don't got a lot going on tonight. There's no hockey tonight. There's one NBA game. You know I want the Knicks to win. I would never bet against the Knicks, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to parlay Knicks money line with the Mets to win tonight on the road at the Nationals because the Mets are hot right now. So give me a 2-team money line parlay. Small card for me tonight. I'm going to be living and dying with the Knicks. Knicks-Mets 2-team money line parlay, courtesy of our friends at BetMGM. And again, I'll just say it. I'm expecting the Knicks to win tonight by double digits. And maybe that's stupid, and maybe I'm going to feel dumb tomorrow on the air. Won't be the first time, won't be the last. I'm expecting the Knicks to come out firing tonight. And rust to not be as big a deal, a negative, as rest was a positive. Let's go OG Anunoby. Let's go Brunson. Let's go Bridges, Josh Hart, Cat. Go New York. Go New York. Go. Piss off, Cleveland. I'm just kidding. I love you. But I want the Knicks to beat the Cavaliers tonight. I'll see everybody tomorrow on a Wednesday. Until then, I'm Nick Kostos wishing you minimal sweats, winning bets, the absolute very best of luck. Our good friends, Black and Abdallah, coming up next on Westwood One Sports.